Now, there's bad manners of politics. And the problem with Kenya is the eating mentality. Everybody who is going towards the center, as I told you last time, Kenya is a kleptocracy. Everybody wants to be associated towards the center because the regime that you were left by the British was built on kleptocracy. That's why, for them, they understood that kleptocracy would work in Britain when the monarch was absolute, in terms of the monarchy being the head of government and the head of state, which means you could not access anything unless at the behest of the monarch.
Yes.
Now, once they left us that, we had absolute presidency, where the parliamentary system was just there as an ad hoc, but not absolute in its sense. So the president has far-reaching powers. So anybody who is close to the president will eat.
Yeah.
Okay? So it will become very vicious, of course. At any one moment, or the period vicious, because the person who sits at the presidency and his people that he talks to would want to influence what goes where and how much corruption do you have. Because remember, the government does not also eat from, or you don't eat the government from the tenders they have. The government is eaten from debt, sovereign debt.
What does that mean?
It means I come to the government and I raise a budget, or I estimate a budget for financial year 25-26 to 4.2 trillion. Ideally, this country can run on 2.75 trillion, which we collect from taxes. But now you're finding that we have a deficit of 1 point something trillion. So where do we get this 1 point something trillion? You go to local market and external market. So we borrow from two. Now in the local market, that's the local banks. When you borrow from the local banks here, you're borrowing from, the local banks. Yeah? That's why you find these CEOs having salaries of what 200, 300 million in a year. It's abnormal. It's always a deal. Okay? Now once you borrow from the local market, what do? You're denying the citizens a chance of having what? Cash fee. They don't have money. The banks cannot loan them, so there's no money. On the other side, when you borrow from international whatever, the money should come to the consolidated account. A country like Kenya has a consolidated account. Okay? And before you reach there, you must take a legal step, which is going to parliament. After giving your budget estimates, you give the projects which you want to finance, which their money is not available. So you only borrow for development. So once these guys borrow, parliament should give you the approval that now go and borrow this amount for development. That is when you raise a sovereign bond. So you go and ask from the market. You can ask from local market. You can ask for external market that I have this amount of business I want to do. I want to finance me. This bond will mature in 10 years, like the Eurobond.
Yes.
Okay. Why am I giving you this context? Because it is very important on what influences or how it influences whatever we're talking about right now. So, for example, today the country needs 1.5, 1.6 trillion to finance its projects. We are going to the external market to borrow. Now, when this money is borrowed, let me give you an example for the Eurobond.
Yes.
The money that was raised was about $2 billion. It was to land. There was somebody who was collecting. It would be Standard Chartered or whatever bank who was collecting what's there. It was to channel that money to the consolidated account of Kenya, which is held at the treasury. Okay? So they raise this money, but this money does not reach Kenya first. This money takes a detour from where it was raised, which was Europe, and it goes to the Federal Reserves of America or whatever. Actually, it was JP Morgan, where the Eurobond went. And from there, it was reappropriated. Only $1 billion arrived in Kenya. To date, nobody can tell us where $1 billion disappeared. Okay? So now, once you understand that, now let's contextualize. That there's 1 billion, average, there's $1 billion or more per financial year to be raised from the external market. Now, for you to raise that money, you need people who are aligned to you in parliament, in places of influence, institutions of authority like the military, EACC, whatever, Auditor General. They need to be your people so that they can cover your trades. Because presidents and the cabals steal at the point of debt. So a country is stolen at debt. It's not stolen at tenders here. Whatever has arrived here is too small. The people are fighting about here. That's too small for them. So like today, I'll tell you, you've heard of Jimmy Wanjigi talk about this thing for a long time. People like Willis Otieno talk about it. It is the reality. The reason that's why we are struggling, and the reason that's why we are reaching the levels of kukatana, kupigana. The reason that's why a president does not want to leave power. Like I can see and I can tell you that it is going to be very difficult for Ruto to win 2027 election. But it's even going to be more difficult for Ruto to leave that power or to hand it on. Why? They are garnering enough that can insure them from the state when somebody else takes over. In that they can threaten the state with the money they have, because they will literally invest in every sphere. That if you joke, they just pull their money, which is our money, which they stole from us, but they will have distributed it from the external markets. Okay? So once that is done, let me tell you now. So
When are you coming back to my question?
Yeah, now.
Okay.
So tribesmen.
But it's good that you went.
Yeah, contextualizing is very important.
And we understand.
So you understand why people fight for government. People fight for government for that reason. So now, these people, these small ones that we're talking about here, of tribes, who belongs to what tribe, who doesn't belong to which tribe, that is a very small thing. These are pawns in the game. So it is not right that somebody is blaming another person or branding another person for destroying other people's business. This president, this Ruto guy, in 2017, if I'm not wrong, this president, when he was then the deputy, went to CNN or BBC at the height of the demonstration then, and branded a whole community as militia, people who actually demonstrated. Why was it branding them as such? To reduce the intensity or downplay the intensity of the issues that was there.
But I think the other day you also talked about militias.
Said Kisumu, they are militia.
Yeah.
Like
Yes, it said like in Kisumu.
Yeah, like in Kisumu.
In fact,
But you also talked about militia the other day. Yesterday, I think.
we talked of, even now, is just completing the security infrastructure in State House. The whole security infrastructure met in State House today, a few minutes ago. And they have expressed instructions on how to handle demonstrations going forward. Because any state, any president, any person who is in an office of influence fears seeing people in the street. There's nothing that threatens them. Then people in this, whether they are peaceful or not, they don't want to see people in the street. So, where we are at, branding of a community as being violent or so is not even the most important question like that. The most important question, this branding will always shift, because today, Raila is supporting Ruto. Luos are no longer demonstrating. So now they are big people. Now it is the Kikuyus who, as my brother said, are dissatisfied in the way government is run, dissatisfied, quote unquote, because they have 7 ministers sitting in that cabinet.
Seven.
7 cabinet secretaries. Ruto's community only has 2.
Whose community?
Ruto. 2. It is Chirchir of energy
And Murkomen.
and Murkomen.
He has all the PSs.
So he has all the PSS. That is true.
Who?
Ruto has all the PSS.
Yeah, that's the eye holders.
Yes, and he talks
Those
to
are
the
the...
It's all the
authority to incur expenditure. No, authority
to incur
expenditure. They're the ones who control them. They're the accounting officer. They control the money.
Oh, so
the PS is the one. So CS is a ceremonial.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of. The real guy is the PS, permanent secretary.
the permanent secretary.
They are the ones that signature has to be for them to incur debts for government.
Yes.
It's the PS.
It's the PS. That's true. That's
Like
it.
a chief officer.
Yeah. So, having these guys, Jagero, branding any community, we must understand that it is not.
Why do we tend to celebrate? Like, why do Luos now tend to celebrate when Kikuyus are facing the same thing they face?
It is the concept of mass ignorance, which is bliss for government and government officials. When the public is ignorant, the government is happy. When the public is awakened, the government is afraid. So what do? They thrive on emotions, because emotions will never attract rationality. Okay? So they tell you, tuko na watu wengi kwa serikali. Wale watu wengine, they want to remove your person from out. Yes.
Hey.
So they're playing the underdog game, because the underdog will always win in any contest. So that they win favor, they win sympathy. Yeah? So that's what's going on now in this government. It is just pretense. There's nothing of solid content from them.
What do you think, people of the internet? No rumor, bwana.